Good morning, my dear boys. Today we shall begin going through a new text, a new lesson, lesson 6, and it is a poem. And you know, my boys, this is a very famous poem, Sea Fever. It is a very famous poem written by John Masefield. But who was John Masefield? Before going through the poem, we must know about the poet. He was a very famous poet too, and Sea Fever is one of his masterpieces. So we must know about the poet first, and after knowing about him, we shall go through the poem. John Masefield was a British poet. He was born on June 1st June 1878 in Ledbury, Herefordshire, in England. His mother died when he was only 6 years old. That means when he was still a child, he lost his mother. He lived with his aunt and father. So he was brought up by his father, and his aunt also lived in the family. She also took care of him. যখন তার মা মারা যান তখন তার বয়স মাত্র 6 বছর। বাবা পিসি ছিলেন বাড়িতে, তারাই তার দেখাশোনা করেন। But later his father, who was a solicitor, so his father was a solicitor by profession, and his father, who was a solicitor, also died due to mental breakdown. He was psychologically broken, perhaps due to some financial crisis, and also due to the premature death of his wife. He was mentally absolutely upset, and that is why, due to psychological breakdown, his father died. Masefield was getting his education in King's School, but he was not happy with the education imparted in King's School in Warwick. He was getting his education in the King's School in Warwick, but he was not satisfied with the education. He was not quite interested in learning. You see, naughty boy, huh? And left his school to join the British naval ship HMS Conway to be trained at sea. And he gave up his education and joined British Navy, and he also joined a ship HMS Conway to get training to be a sailor. During his time on HMS Conway, while he was staying on HMS Conway, Masefield developed a passion for storytelling. Just try to understand, my boys, how sometimes suddenly a development comes into a man's life. While he was working as a sailor in HMS Conway, somehow he developed his ability to tell good stories of his own. In 1894, on his first voyage, he went to Chile and experienced seasickness. He made his first voyage on HMS Conway in 1894. 1894, that is, then he was only 16 years old. And he went to Chile on his first voyage. And as it was his first voyage, he was quite sick with the seasickness. The experiences of sailing, extreme weather conditions on board, and the beauty of nature inspired him greatly. যদিও খুব অসুস্থ হয়ে পড়েছিলেন, স্টিল তাকে কিন্তু কতগুলো জিনিস খুব প্রভাবিত করেছিল। নাবিক হিসেবে কাজ করার অভিজ্ঞতা, অত্যন্ত সাংঘাতিক আবহাওয়ার এদিক ওদিক, এক্সট্রিম ওয়েদার কন্ডিশন, চরম হাওয়াপন্ন আবহাওয়া, নৌকোয় জাহাজে থাকাকালীন, এবং প্রাকৃতিক সৌন্দর্য। সমুদ্রের তো নিজস্ব সৌন্দর্য আছে, এটাও তাকে খুব প্রভাবিত করেছিল। He was greatly influenced by these three things. Especially, he was influenced by the beauty of nature, especially marine nature. And this fondness of marine nature, this fondness of the natural beauty of sea is quite evident in this poem too. You will find the expression. In 1895, Mansfield went to New York on board a large sailing ship. In 1895, that means he was then 17 years old. He went to America, the USA, on board a large sailing ship. He boarded a large ship, large vessel, as a sailor and went there. But his strong desire to become a writer and his feeling of hopelessness in sailing overtook him, and he decided to live the mariner's life. But soon he got tired of the life of a mariner, and at the same time he was quite interested in doing something else, doing a lot of study that was not possible as a sailor. So here also he gave up the work of a sailor. He gave it up because he wanted to become a writer. He wanted to be he wanted to build up a new career as a poet and author. So he gave the job up. During this time, during this time, he also did another thing. He began devouring the classical literature. He began devouring it. যতটা গোগ্রাসে গিলতে শুরু করলেন তিনি, ডিভর করা মানে গিলে ফেলা, মানে প্রচুর ভাবে পরিমাণে পড়তে শুরু করলেন ক্লাসিক্যাল লিটারেচার। কাদের দ্বারা তিনি খুব বেশি প্রভাবিত হয়েছিলেন? And after going through such classical literature and also modern literature, he got greatly inspired by a large number of poets and authors, right from Geoffrey Chaucer to the poets and authors of novelists and essayists of Victorian age and Romantic age in England. Who those writers and poets were? Though they were Alexander Dumas, the great essayist Hazlitt, Thomas Browne, Charles Dickens, you know the name? He is one of the greatest novelists of all times. Charles Dickens, the Victorian novelist, Robert Louis Stevenson, Rudyard Kipling, even Geoffrey Chaucer, the poet of the Middle Ages, who is called the father of English poetry. He got his inspiration from even Geoffrey Chaucer. and also from the great romanticists, the great romantic poets like Keats and Shelley, John Keats and Percy Bysshe Shelley. He got inspiration for writing from all these poets and authors. You know, whenever you are out to do something new, you have to prepare yourself. আমরা যদি নিজেদের তৈরি না করি তাহলে আমরা প্র্যাকটিক্যালি কোনো কিছুই খুব এফিশিয়েন্টলি করতে পারবো না। You know, you always get your preparation for your exams. Life itself is an exam, and there will be different turns in life, in everybody's life. You have to prepare yourself for the new things to come in your life. Whenever you are out to make a new endeavor, a new enterprise, you first have to prepare yourself. He also did it. And he began writing seriously. His first collection of poems was Salt Water Ballads. Salt Water Ballads. This was the first collection of poems written by him. And this collection of poems included two major poems. The name of the first one is Cargoes, and the other is Sea Fever, the poem that we are about to go through. And Sea Fever, I have already told you, is even today reckoned as his masterpiece. His first long narrative poem, The Everlasting Mercy, the first long narrative poem was The Everlasting Mercy, and this poem surprised all the critics in England. All the critics, সমস্ত সমালোচককে মুগ্ধ করে দিয়েছিল যে বাহ, এই তো এক নতুন শক্তিশালী কবির জন্ম হয়েছে. We've got a new, very strong, efficient, sensitive poet. They all thought so. The critics all thought so. Because in this poem, in this long poem, he used phrases with colloquial coarseness. He used colloquial language. You will find while reading this poem also, his language is always very simple. But through this simplicity, he brings out the poetry. That is his greatness. His popular narrative poems are Dover and The Widow in the By Street. These are his popular narrative poems. And as a result of his literary works, in 1912, he received a very important prize, very important award, Edmund de Polignac. It was the name of the award he received in 1912. This great poet received many. He wrote many novels too, and books for children too. The Box of Delights and The Midnight Folk are two famous works for children. He received many honorary awards in the USA and in different countries in Europe. He got many honorary awards like honorary doctorate, D.Litt, etc. In 1930, he got his greatest honor. In 1930, British Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald recommended his name to the King George V to be the poet laureate to replace Robert Bridges. I told you earlier who a poet laureate is. A poet laureate is an important poet of England who is expected to write great poems on different occasions, and his name is recommended. The name of a poet laureate is recommended by the Prime Minister, and it is announced. His name is declared as poet laureate by the King or the Queen. So, his name was recommended by the then Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald, and he got the Nobel laureate, poet laureate honor to replace Robert Bridges from the King George V. So he became the poet laureate in 1930 and held the title poet laureate for about 37 years until his death in 1967. This was the information about the poet. Tomorrow we shall discuss something about the poem, and after that we shall start reading the poem. So, bye for today.